The human fleet floated in the quiet emptiness near the edge of Zethurian space. Stars glimmered cold and distant, but the humans could feel the tension pressing down on their ship decks like a weight. Admiral Kale stood at the command bridge of the flagship Resolute, his eyes scanning the holographic display of approaching alien ships. The Zethurians were formidable enemies, tall and sleek, with technology that often seemed a step beyond human imagination. Yet Kale trusted the one thing that no Zethurian could truly predict: the human mind. For decades, humanity had resisted Zethurian conquest. Entire planets had been destroyed in the fight, but humans had adapted, improvised, and survived. Kale knew that the key to survival was never brute strength alone. It was creativity, courage, and unpredictability. "Admiral," Lieutenant Mara called, breaking his thoughts. "They're hailing us. It's a direct transmission." Kale took a deep breath and tapped his communicator. The screen flickered and the face of the Zethurian queen appeared. She was tall, with sharp, angular features and eyes that gleamed like polished crystal. Her presence was commanding, almost regal, yet there was an undercurrent of curiosity in her expression. "Humans," she said, her voice echoing strangely, almost melodic. "I have grown tired of this endless war. I propose a solution. Either you agree to a union with me, or the war continues and your species faces complete annihilation." The bridge fell silent. The crew stared at Kale, waiting for his reaction. The words hung in the air, surreal and impossible. "Union?" Kale repeated, his voice steady even as his mind raced. "What exactly do you mean?" The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "A marriage. A symbolic union between our species. It would end this war immediately. Refuse, and the conflict continues." Kale's mind swirled. It sounded absurd, almost like a bluff, yet the power behind her words made it clear that this was no joke. He glanced at his officers, noting the mixture of fear and disbelief on their faces. "Admiral," Mara whispered, "could it be a trick?" Kale nodded slightly. "It could be, but if it is, we need to find a way to turn it to our advantage." He tapped his communicator again. "Queen Lysera," he said carefully, "we need time to consider your proposal. War is not a matter decided in a moment." The queen tilted her head, her eyes glimmering. "You have 24 hours. I am patient, but not infinitely so. Choose wisely, human." Then the screen went dark. The crew exhaled collectively. Kale walked to the center of the bridge, hands behind his back. He needed a plan, one that would protect humanity but also find a way to understand why the queen had made such an unusual demand. "Report," he said, turning to his officers. "What do we know about Zethurian politics? Could there be factions within their ranks that oppose this war?" Lieutenant Jaron, the fleet's intelligence officer, stepped forward. "Yes, Admiral. There have been whispers of dissension among the high councils. Some believe the war is pointless, that humans are uniquely persistent and should be treated differently." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Uniquely persistent, that's the word, isn't it? They fear us because we do not behave like other species. They cannot predict us easily." Mara nodded. "So maybe this marriage thing is a way for them to test us, or maybe it's their way of respecting our abilities in their own strange way." Kale considered this. It made sense. The queen's offer was absurd, yet it acknowledged one undeniable truth: humans were different. Their strength was not just in weapons, but in thought, in imagination, in the courage to act when others hesitated. "Prepare a delegation," Kale ordered. "We go to their flagship, but cautiously. We observe, we learn, and we stay alive." The human fleet moved under escort into Zethurian space. The alien ships were beautiful, crystalline, and sleek, with glowing patterns that pulsed like living veins. Humans stared in awe, but Kale reminded them silently that beauty did not equal safety. When they boarded the Queen's flagship, the interior was like nothing humans had seen. The walls shimmered with colors that seemed alive, and soft lights guided their path. Kale and his delegation were led into a vast chamber where Queen Lysera waited. She stood atop a raised platform, surrounded by advisors, yet her attention was focused solely on Kale. "Admiral Kale," she said again, "your species has impressed me. You survive against impossible odds, you adapt when others fail. It is time to consider a partnership. I offer you a choice." Kale bowed slightly, not in submission but in protocol. "Queen Lysera, we understand the gravity of your offer, but humanity values freedom above all. We cannot accept a marriage without understanding its terms and consequences." The Queen's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "I respect that," she said. "Humans are unpredictable. Perhaps that is why I am drawn to you. I would like to see if your species is truly capable of thinking beyond survival, beyond strategy. Perhaps we can find another way to honor both our peoples." Kale felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a way to turn this bizarre situation into an opportunity. "Then we are willing to negotiate," he said. "Let us see if we can find a solution that ends the war without compromising our independence." The Queen nodded. "Very well, you will have your time. Observe, learn, and decide. But remember, the clock is ticking." As the humans left the chamber, Kale turned to his delegation. "This is unusual, yes, but it is also our chance. We must understand her motives, her people, and what makes them strong. And we must show them that humanity is not a species to be controlled or underestimated." The delegation returned to their ships, minds racing. Even in the silent void of space, Kale felt the weight of the decision ahead. The Queen's ultimatum was strange, almost whimsical, yet the stakes were real. Humanity's survival depended not on guns or shields alone, but on the cleverness and courage of their people. That night, Kale stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, staring at the stars. He thought of the countless battles the friends lost and the world scarred by war. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, he felt something else: determination. Humans had always found a way, and he would not allow this challenge to be their end. He thought of the Queen's words, her strange fascination with humanity. Perhaps she did not understand them fully, but that was their strength. They were unpredictable, unbound by expectation. In that unpredictability lay hope, and perhaps the first step toward peace. The human delegation walked carefully through the corridors of Queen Lysera's flagship. The walls shimmered in soft hues, casting moving patterns that seemed almost alive. Every step echoed with a sense of grandeur and silent authority. It was a place designed to impress, to remind visitors of the power and sophistication of the Zethurians. Yet Kale knew better than to be distracted by beauty. Every detail could be a test, every gesture could hide danger. Mara whispered, "Admiral, it feels like the walls are watching us." Kale nodded. "Stay alert. Every alien we meet may have an agenda. Observe carefully." They reached a chamber filled with Zethurian officials. The room was vast, almost cathedral-like, with a ceiling that glowed faintly with an artificial sun. At the center, Queen Lysera stood, her expression calm but unreadable. Her attendants were silent, their long limbs and elegant postures giving them an alien grace that humans could not replicate. "Humans," the Queen began, her voice echoing softly, "you have shown resilience in battle. Yet resilience alone does not secure peace. You must demonstrate wisdom, adaptability, and insight. Only then can you prove that a partnership is possible." Kale kept his posture straight, meeting her gaze. "We are ready to learn, Queen Lysera. Tell us what you wish us to do." The Queen gestured, and holographic projections filled the room. They displayed maps of human and Zethurian territories, symbols indicating resources, and simulations of battle scenarios. "These are exercises," she said. "They test your ability to think beyond standard tactics. Predict the unpredictable, solve what seems unsolvable." Lieutenant Jaren leaned closer to Kale. "These are simulations, but they feel almost like real strategy exercises. She wants to see how we respond under pressure." Kale studied the projections. "Not just strategy." She wants creativity. She expects us to adapt where Zithurians would follow protocol. That is her respect for humans showing. The first exercise began. Human officers were divided into teams and asked to resolve a simulated crisis. A planet under attack from multiple Zithurian factions, with limited resources and time constraints. While Zithurians would typically follow strict algorithms, the humans improvised. They redistributed resources creatively, used decoy strategies to confuse the simulated enemy, and found solutions that seemed impossible. Queen Lysera observed quietly, her eyes following Kale closely. She noticed how he directed his officers not with rigid commands but with encouragement and trust. His style was unpredictable, yet effective. For the first time, she leaned forward slightly, intrigued by the way humans approached problems. After the exercise, Kale reported the outcomes. "We have stabilized the planet and minimized losses. The methods may be unconventional, but they work." Lysera's lips curved into a faint smile. "Indeed, humans are resourceful. You adapt where others fail. Yet adaptability is only part of the test. You must also demonstrate empathy, judgment, and the ability to balance risk with morality." She led them to another chamber, smaller this time, with an artificial environment that mimicked an alien city under threat. Here, Kale and his team faced a simulation that required negotiating with alien factions, each with different motives and hidden agendas. Humans applied their understanding of psychology and diplomacy, predicting the factions, desires, and fears. They avoided unnecessary conflict, convincing opposing sides to work together to save civilians and resources. Mara whispered, "Admiral, they'll never expect us to solve this without force." Kale smiled faintly. "Exactly. That is why we are human. We think beyond the obvious." The Queen watched silently, her expression unreadable. Slowly she spoke. "You surprise me. I had expected resistance, but not ingenuity. Humans are remarkable. Perhaps there is truth in the old tales that your species thrives because you defy expectations." Days passed as the humans continued the trials. Each challenge tested a different aspect: leadership, problem-solving, negotiation, and morality. The Zithurians provided scenarios that seemed designed to trap or mislead. Yet humans adapted, turning the impossible into achievable outcomes. Kale noticed that even when the simulations became intense and seemingly unfair, his officers remained composed, supporting one another and thinking creatively. At night, Kale and Mara would walk through quiet corridors of the flagship. The artificial lights reflected off smooth surfaces, casting long shadows. Kale thought about the Queen and her motives. Why had she chosen this unusual path? Was it respect for humans or a test of their limits? "Do you think she truly understands us?" Mara asked softly. Kale considered. "Perhaps not entirely, but she sees enough to know that humans cannot be controlled by fear or force alone. That is why she fascinates me, and why we must be careful." One evening, during a particularly difficult trial involving interstellar resource allocation and simulated rebellion, Kale noticed a pattern. Some of the Zithurian officials subtly sabotaged certain outcomes, trying to force humans into moral dilemmas. Yet, instead of anger or frustration, Kale's team found innovative solutions that avoided unnecessary losses and even turned potential failures into advantages. Lysera observed from a raised platform, her eyes narrowing slightly. She realized that humans did not just react, they anticipated, adapted, and created opportunities where none existed. No Zithurian method had ever produced such results. After the trial, she approached Kale privately. "Admiral," she said quietly, "your people are extraordinary. I have seen other species, but none like yours. You are not only brave, but clever and compassionate in ways I had not expected." Kale bowed slightly, careful not to show too much emotion. "Thank you, Queen Lysera. We fight to protect our people, not for glory. Yet we do believe that cleverness and compassion can save more lives than strength alone. For the first time, Lysera allowed herself a small, genuine smile. You may be correct. Perhaps I have underestimated humanity. Over the next few days, Kale and his team began to learn more about Zithurian culture. They observed subtle rituals, ceremonies, and ways in which the Zithurians communicated, both verbally and through body language. The humans began to understand patterns, noticing that even in their elegance and protocol, there were hints of unpredictability. These insights became tools in the ongoing exercises, allowing humans to navigate the simulations with even greater success. One morning, the Queen called a special meeting. "Humans," she said, "you have proven capable of more than I expected. Yet the final test is not strategy or diplomacy. It is character. You must choose. Will you agree to a union as I originally proposed, or will you attempt to find another way to end the war?" Kale looked around at his officers. "The Queen is giving us a chance to show our judgment," he whispered. "We must find a solution that protects our people and honors our principles." After careful discussion, Kale presented a plan. "Queen Lysera, we recognize your desire for peace. We also value freedom and mutual respect. We propose an alternative, a strategic alliance based on cooperation, trust, and shared command. This would allow our peoples to work together without submission or coercion. It is unconventional, but humans have shown that unconventional methods can succeed where force fails." Lysera considered this. "An alliance without marriage, without submission. You are bold, Admiral. Most species would never dare propose such a thing. And yet you have earned my respect. Perhaps there is wisdom in your audacity." The Queen's advisors murmured among themselves, clearly unsettled. Some favored the original marriage proposal, while others were intrigued by the human suggestion. Kale could feel the tension in the room, but he remained calm, confident that reason and ingenuity were on their side. Lysera raised her hand for silence. "Very well. I accept your proposal in principle. We will work together, humans and Zithurians, to end the war. But understand this, the path will not be easy. There are factions in both our societies that oppose this union. You will need courage, intelligence, and flexibility to navigate the challenges ahead." Kale nodded. "We are ready, Queen Lysera." Humanity has never shied from a challenge. In the days that followed, humans and select Zithurians began working together. Planning meetings, simulations, and negotiations became the norm. Kale noticed a subtle shift in the Queen's attitude. She no longer regarded humans as simply unpredictable or dangerous. Instead, she began to value their insights, their creativity, and their moral perspective. During one quiet evening on the observation deck, Kale and Lysera stood side by side, looking at the stars. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before them, silent yet full of potential. "You are different," Lysera said softly. "Your species has a resilience that goes beyond survival. It is not just strength or numbers. It is your mind, your courage, your heart." Kale smiled faintly. "We survive because we have no choice but to try. We fail, we adapt, and we keep moving forward. Perhaps that is our advantage." Lysera studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Perhaps it is. Perhaps humans are exactly what this universe needs: clever, unpredictable, and unyielding." The human delegation returned to their ships, carrying with them a new sense of purpose. They were no longer simply fighting for survival. They were shaping the future of interstellar relations, proving that intelligence, courage, and morality could achieve what brute force never could. Kale stood on the deck of the Resolute, staring into the darkness beyond the stars. The war was far from over, but a new chapter had begun. Humanity had shown its strength in ways no alien had expected. And in the quiet of space, he allowed himself a small thought. Maybe, just maybe, this strange and dangerous universe had room for humans after all. The stars outside the Zethurian flagship shimmered coldly, as if watching the unfolding events. Humanity and Zethurians now faced a fragile peace, but tensions ran deep beneath the surface. Some Zethurian factions openly opposed cooperation with humans, seeing them as unpredictable and dangerous. Likewise, human commanders feared that any misstep could unravel everything they had fought to achieve. Admiral Kale paced the observation deck of the Resolute, his eyes tracing constellations beyond the ship. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, yet he felt a quiet determination. Humanity had come far, proving their ingenuity, courage, and morality in the Queen's trials. But now the real challenge awaited, bridging centuries of war and fear with trust and cooperation. Lieutenant Mara approached quietly. "Admiral, the Queen has requested a final council. It seems serious." Kale nodded. "I expected as much. Prepare the team. We must show our unity and resolve." The council chamber was larger than any human structure Kale had ever seen. Crystal spires reached toward the ceiling, reflecting ambient light like 1,000 tiny suns. Zethurian officials filled the room, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and barely concealed disdain. Queen Lysera sat at the head of a long table, her gaze fixed firmly on the humans as they entered. "Admiral Kale, humans," she began, "you have proven capable of thinking beyond standard strategy, of balancing morality with necessity. You have demonstrated qualities that even my most skilled advisors sometimes lack, yet words alone cannot secure peace. Actions are required." Kale met her gaze. "We understand, Queen Lysera. Our actions will be guided by reason and integrity. Humanity seeks cooperation, not domination." A murmur passed through the Zethurian advisors. Some were clearly unhappy with the human presence and influence. Kale felt their scrutiny, their doubts, but he stood tall. Fear and prejudice could not dictate outcomes. Only intelligence, courage, and negotiation could. The council began with discussions of the contested planets, shared resources, and the integration of joint military command. Humans contributed practical solutions, often counterintuitive to the Zethurians, yet effective. They proposed adaptive defenses, unconventional supply strategies, and collaborative intelligence networks. Each idea demonstrated human creativity in ways the Zethurians had never considered. Some advisors challenged the proposals, insisting that traditional Zethurian methods were superior. Kale remained calm, presenting simulations that showed the humans' ideas reduced casualties, preserved resources, and increased efficiency. Slowly, even the skeptics began to acknowledge the value of human thinking. Queen Lysera watched intently. Humans do not simply follow orders. They anticipate, adapt, and create. Perhaps this is why your species survives where others fail. Yet cooperation will demand trust from both sides. Kale nodded. Trust is earned through action, not words. That is why we propose a series of joint missions under shared command to prove that humans and Zethurians can work together successfully. The Queen considered this. "Very well, your plan is accepted in principle, but understand this, not all factions on either side will agree. You must prepare for resistance." Over the next several weeks, human and Zethurian teams worked together. They coordinated patrols, defended outposts, and conducted joint exercises. The humans' ingenuity and adaptability continued to impress the Zethurians. They found solutions to logistical problems, discovered weaknesses in enemy strategies, and even averted crises that would have otherwise escalated into conflict. During one operation on a contested planet, a rogue Zethurian faction attempted an ambush. Humans and loyal Zethurians worked together seamlessly, using unconventional tactics that combined the best of both species' skills. Kale directed the team, anticipating the ambush and turning it into an advantage. The rogue faction was neutralized without mass casualties, earning admiration and reluctant respect from even the most skeptical Zithurians. After the mission, Kale and Lysera met privately in the observation chamber. The artificial stars reflected in her crystalline eyes, giving them a distant, otherworldly glow. "You have done well, Admiral," she said softly. "Your species does not only survive. You shape events with intelligence and courage. It is impressive." Kale allowed himself a small smile. "We survive because we have no choice but to try, and we thrive because we work together, even when odds seem impossible." Lysera's gaze lingered. "Perhaps this is why I offered the Union, not out of tradition but out of recognition. Humans are unique. Perhaps in alliance, our peoples can achieve something no one expected." Kale nodded. "Then let us show the universe what humans and Zithurians can do when we combine our strengths." As they worked together, Kale noticed that some of the Queen's advisors were quietly shifting their opinions. Where there had been doubt and disdain, there was now respect. Humans were proving that strength alone did not define a species. Cleverness, moral courage, and adaptability could change the course of history. Tensions remained, however. One day, a message arrived from a radical Zithurian council member, threatening to disrupt the alliance unless the humans withdrew. Kale convened an emergency meeting. "We expected resistance," he told his officers. "This is the real test. We must act decisively but without rashness. Our goal is peace, not conquest." Mara suggested using negotiation rather than force. "If we show that we respect their perspective while demonstrating competence, we may sway them." Humans have always excelled at turning enemies into allies through reason and courage. Kale agreed. "Prepare a delegation. We will meet their leaders directly. It is time to prove that humans are not just clever in battle, but clever in diplomacy as well." The delegation met the radicals on neutral ground. Kale spoke with calm authority, presenting the results of joint missions, the benefits of cooperation, and the long-term security gained from alliance rather than continued conflict. He acknowledged their concerns while showing how humanity's unique perspective had prevented disaster and saved lives. The radical Zithurians were cautious, but impressed. Slowly, their anger gave way to reluctant acceptance. Kale's words were not empty promises. They were backed by actions that demonstrated humans' reliability, intelligence, and morality. Returning to the flagship, Kale reported the progress to Lysera. "The radicals are reconsidering. They see that cooperation, guided by reason and courage, achieves more than conflict alone." Lysera's expression softened. "Your species continues to surprise me, not through strength but through intellect and character. Perhaps this is why humans endure where others fail." Days later, the final ceremony was arranged. Humans and loyal Zithurians gathered to formalize their alliance. The ceremony was symbolic, not through marriage, but through shared oaths, joint command declarations, and agreements for cooperation in governance and defense. Humans and Zithurians stood side by side, united in purpose and respect. Kale watched as the alliance was sealed. The war, long and brutal, was finally ending not with victory or defeat alone, but through partnership and understanding. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the new chapter that had begun. In a quiet moment, Lysera approached Kale once more. "You have shown that humans are not simply fighters. You are thinkers, negotiators, and leaders. I respect you, Admiral." "And I respect your people," Kale bowed slightly. "We respect you as well, Queen Lysera. Together, we can achieve what neither of our species could alone." The human delegation returned to the Resolute, carrying a renewed sense of purpose. The alliance had not only ended the war, but also created a foundation for trust, innovation, and mutual respect. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and moral fortitude had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were leaders, capable of shaping the future of interstellar society. Even as the fleets dispersed to their home territories, Kale felt a quiet satisfaction. Humanity had faced impossible odds, encountered an alien civilization that could have destroyed them, and instead had found a path to peace and cooperation. The Queen's strange and challenging ultimatum had become a turning point, demonstrating that cleverness, bravery, and moral courage could achieve what raw power alone never could. As the stars stretched endlessly before him, Kale allowed himself a small thought. Humanity had proven itself worthy, not just in battle but in character. And in this vast, uncertain universe, perhaps there was room for humans after all, bright, unpredictable, and unstoppable. The war had ended, not with domination or submission, but with mutual respect. And in that respect, humans found something far greater than victory, a place among the stars and a future shaped by their own ingenuity and courage.